When we're talking about Kyle Shanahan maybe having pressure and choking this year, do you think that there's any concern with you that he's going to go into the playoffs or the Super Bowl trying to, maybe show off Brock Purdy? It felt like some people had the narrative in the Rams game that Kyle Shanahan might have been a little bit more concerned with making Brock Purdy look like the MVP than just winning the game, mostly because he went out passing. Now, I will say they were super successful passing, aside from the fact that that Brock Purdy kept throwing the ball to the other team in the red zone, but they had a ton of
That was a poor
yards.
game plan. If he's throwing those picks, then ultimately it means it was a poor game plan, especially because his first two picks were egregious. The red zone one, and then the one where he's trying to do too much and throws to a George Kittle draped over. So if he's throwing picks and their defense are making them, lucky or not, that means your game plan was ultimately. That's why I say like Kyle Shanahan got worked that game. I think I put him at the forefront of that loss more than Brock Purdy, especially because it was proven that McCaffrey was running the ball efficiently well, and you went away from that.
Yeah,
you thought the game plan of passing was going to work, and Mike McDonald or McDonald, whatever his name is, on the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, took you to the woodshed. Like, he got scraped, and it happens. It's fine. Now, if you guys play again, we'll see. But
do you think that's kind of my question, is Kyle Shanahan has the reputation of maybe making the wrong decisions in the biggest games? Do you feel like you've seen growth from him this year? Like, if they did get to the Super Bowl, what would your confidence level be that they could actually win it? Or would it?
Because I'm confident, and I just realized like you've been saying like Kyle Shanahan choking, and I'm like, wait, what is he choked? When did he choke? He didn't choke in 2019. He didn't choke in 2021. He didn't choke last year. Last year, we know we got hurt. 2021, Jimmy couldn't throw to save his life, and that's not his fault when the quarterback sucks. Because I think me and a bunch of other people have been saying Jimmy sucks. He's never been good. His peak year was 2019. And then 2019, Jimmy again, fourth quarter, sucks. And then Patrick Mahomes was great. Offensive line couldn't do it. So, like, I never looked at that Super Bowl loss on Shanahan, ever. I never did, and I still don't. I was right there. I was at the stadium watching the game, and I never once thought this is Kyle's fault. If anything, I said what I said after the 49ers lost to the Ravens 2 weeks ago. You got beat. You got beat because everything that went wrong did go wrong. So I don't ever see Kyle Shanahan choke. Does he choke in, like, games? Yeah, regular season games, yeah. But I don't think any of their exits since 2019 has been
both of his Super Bowl losses. I feel like people say that he choked. I can see
that Atlanta one is not his fault because he's the offensive coordinator. He's not the head coach. And last time I checked, the head coach can say, Kyle, don't do this. Do not do this. And also last time I checked, the head coach who's responsible for the side of the ball is the one who led up 40
really talk about that Atlanta loss. Like, I've never.
It's the stupidest thing to go against him.
I was just gonna say, who was the offensive coordinator in 2019? I was gonna say I've never seen like an offensive coordinator get as much shit as Kyle Shanahan does.
Any coordinator, it's like, wait,
blame him more than they do the actual coach.
The actual coach who was actually in charge of, like, that was his baby, the defense. His baby, the defense, is the one that led him up. I mean, he wasn't calling it, but that was his baby, like with Raheem Morris. Like, I think they were kind of hand in hand and lockstep in what they were doing. And then again, so it's like you failed in that end, and then you failed on telling Kyle, like, if you wanted something different, he could have said something. And yeah, it's just I never view anything as like Kyle's fault in any of his exits ever.
Observe Nature Evolution said
he did not choke the Super Bowl. That was not his team. The defense let up hella points. The head coach could always tell him no. So no, he never choked the Super Bowl ever. Anyone who says that just hates him at this point, honestly, because if you view offensive coordinators why they blew, that's crazy. Why does no one talk about the play call about Seattle at the 1? Everyone blames Pete Carroll, right? Why does Kyle Shanahan get the changed narrative? Seattle at the 1, everyone talks about what was Pete Carroll thinking. Does anyone remember who the offensive coordinator was? No, because that was Pete Carroll, because Ely said, no, give it to Marshawn. Pete Carroll gets slandered. But in that Super Bowl against the Falcons and Patriots, it's Kyle Shanahan failed. Like, what? All right, now at this point, it's just inconsistency. Let's just say it's hate then at that point. Or let's just say like you just hating on him, because that's the reality. Objectively, it was not his fault. Subjectively, you think it's his fault, you're just a hater, honestly. Because there's no way to ever say anything else.
I feel like there is a pattern, but I understand, like, I see both sides. I understand that it is weird that he gets more criticism than the actual coach, but it is concerning that every big game that Kyle Shanahan has been a part of, his team has lost. So we do hope that in this next big game,
it's not
that's not.
concerning because it's not been through a fault of his own. I
He
don't
went
see.
away
I don't see
from
what.
what was working against the Chiefs, stopped running the jet sweeps.
They weren't running that heavily. If anything, they should have probably. I just don't. That was in the first half when Debo went off. He should have did more for sure. I'm not saying
Against
he's not deserving of
the
blame. I'm
Rams,
just
the
saying like
NFC Championship game against the Rams, I felt like it was Kyle Shanahan's fault for not making sure to get the ball in Debo Samuel's hands.
because they were neutralizing him. He wasn't doing much in that game anyway. So Elijah Mitchell wasn't either. Because remember, that offense was more than Debo. Elijah Mitchell, it was like a 1A, 1B. And Elijah Mitchell was hella good that year too. And then it's like Jimmy couldn't make basic throws at all. That was probably the worst game I've ever seen Jimmy as a 49er ever. That was so bad.
This is interesting. So I was kind of thinking that no matter what happened, that if the 49ers lose either in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, that Kyle Shanahan, maybe the reason he was stressed, I was thinking, I think it's going to come down to him. Like, fans are going to blame him. Do you feel differently? Do you think that if Brock Purdy, because I think even if Brock Purdy goes out and has a bad game, the narrative will be like, well, Kyle Shanahan should have leaned on Christian McCaffrey more and ran the ball more.
It all
If
depends.
it's opposite, if they're running the ball, okay, well, why didn't you trust your quarterback that got you this far, that that's proven that he's a Pro Bowl caliber player? So I kind of feel like it seems like if Kyle Shanahan or if the 49ers don't win, that no matter what, once you have a team with this much talent and it gets this far, I do think that a lot of that blame goes on the head coach. Do you think that if Brock Purdy plays a bad game, let's say in the Super Bowl, hypothetically, that you would blame Kyle Shanahan for not adjusting his game plan, or would you say that loss is on Purdy, or is it more of like a shared thing?
It depends. It's going to be a shared thing for sure, but it depends if it's like what we saw against the Ravens, where it's like, what kind of game plan was that? And then, oh yeah, I'm going to put Kyle Shanahan at the forefront of blame. And let me make it clear: Kyle Shanahan is not absolved of blame of any of those losses, including Atlanta. It's just the fact that he's at the forefront, or even the second person to get blamed at, that I think it's unfair. Like, of course he gets blamed. He's the head coach, and things probably could have gone better. But to say like he's the reason why and he choked and all this such, that's kind of a ridiculous statement to me. Like it's just ridiculous. But yeah, against the Ravens, if something like that happens, like okay. But if like Purdy's like throwing like egregious picks, like that, just like I don't know, he just doesn't have it. Like it's clearly like he's missing the field. He's throwing inaccurate. Like what's Shanahan supposed to do about that? What's he supposed to do about that? That's where it's like again, it's like everything like matters in terms of like what we watch the game and stuff like that. And that's why I look at like yeah, Purdy deserves blame for sure. He threw some back picks, especially the first two. But it's like it kind of felt like the past happiness was the one reason why you had so much. The high volume allowed for those picks to occur in the first place, I felt like. And it's one thing to have confidence in your guy, but it's like, dude, you're facing the elite defense, probably the best secondary in the league. Like, you really thought that attacking them through the air game was the way to go? Like, okay, like that's a hell of a thing because they clearly showed you why you shouldn't have done it.
I didn't realize the can of worms we were opening by talking about previous Super Bowl losses, but the comments are very, they feel very passionate about this. I think it'll be a shared loss no matter what if that happens, but also don't want to put that bad juju out there. Just to wrap up this topic, if you were going to give it out of like a 10, because I'll give mine too. What is your confidence level in the 49ers, 1 out of 10, that they're gonna get to the Super Bowl and then win the Super Bowl?
7 out of 10. And the only reason why it's not higher is because of who they would face in the Super Bowl. I think making the Super Bowl, 10 out of 10. Winning the Super Bowl at that point, then yeah, that's when it goes. So I guess I'm essentially saying 7 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Everyone, this seems to be like an agreement. Everyone just is like, there's no way that they're not making it to the Super Bowl. I don't know.
Because the NFC stinks. It's not. I don't see them. Like, look, it took. Like I said, the only two teams that made the 49ers like the 49ers got sunned, like completely sunned, like little brothered, was against the Browns and the Ravens. Like, not even the Vikings and the Bengals did that to them.
Yeah.
So that's why
Bengals. That was Joe Burrow went off that game.
Better, yeah. Joe Burrow was just magnificent, which is like, okay, you'll take that, right? And then, of course, Purdy threw those back-to-back picks that one of them led to points. So, yeah, like, The NFC is just a joke to me. Like, again, this is why the Rams is really the only threat, because Stafford has been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The defense looks solid. And I mean, I know the 49ers have had ownership for the most over them for the last like 5 years, but like playoff time is different. That's when like you throw all that out the window. I mean, 2021 NFC Championship proved that. And then again, like the Lions, they got Jared Goff. I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about Jared Goff. He sucks.
I asked that. I saw your vote. I saw you not care.
My God.
I know.
He's always played poorly against the 49ers anyways. But yeah, the Eagles, like, I think they're one and done. The Cowboys, you have your number. Like, who's really stopping them? Who's stopping them in the NFC? You know who it is? Themselves. They're the ones that are going to stop themselves. That's it. That's the only way it's going to stop them.
The Packers, because if the Packers win Week 18, they could get in. Could they make some noise?
No. No.
I like Love.
That's great.
I like Love and Watson, the rookie. Now their defense.
Christian Watson hasn't done jack this year.
No, he's had a couple of impressive games.
A couple of them. And look how many games he's missed. He's missed like 10 games because of a hammy. My guy's got Carnitas hammy, which, by the way, you can get Carnitas at La Tapatía Taqueria. So my guy Christian Watson's Carnitas hamstring is falling off the bone. That shit's tender. And that thing is like, my guy has the weakest hamstring I've ever seen in my life.
That's messed up. I do think that they could get in, but I like that everyone is very passionate about your Kyle Shanahan's take.
Kyle Shanahan is unreal. Before he got here, this team was a joke.
Yeah, but
he made Jimmy Garoppolo look good. How's he look on the Raiders?
I'm not gonna compare. I'm not gonna you want to compare yourself to the best version of yourself, not to. So we're comparing Kyle Shanahan to his last couple previous years where he's made it to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, and we want him to be better than that. We don't want to
when his quarterback got knocked out on the first drive of the game.
I'm not proud of myself for knowing what 2 + 2 is, because child me didn't know what 2 + 2 was. Is that bad?
That's why this year's the most pressure, because he finally has a quarterback, right? And all of a sudden this quarterback was in the MVP discussion. That's why it's like you have to win number one because of you. But to me, it's like, okay, well, we gave Brock Purdy all these accolades. He gets pressure too. Just the same way, we're like, okay, we think he's good. We can criticize him when he fails it. That's why I always think it's funny when people come at me like, oh, you're a Brock Purdy hater. It's like, sorry if I can't criticize the guy for a singular poor game performance. My bad. But anyways,
It's funny that you got so much shit on that, and then the next game he had a really bad game, and then people were shitting on him, and it was like,
hey, you know what else? You know who wasn't shitting on him on that game? Not me. Who would have thought? You know what's funny? After he played bad in the Ravens game, I didn't write anything. The funny thing is, you can't look anywhere in my writings or my Twitter about me saying he's trash, he sucks, he's underrated, he gets carried. None of that. I'd never say anything of that. And on here, I'm always saying he's optimizing. My thing is, I'm not ready to say he's elite. Is he deserving an MVP discussion? Sure, but I never thought he was the MVP ever. Once. It was Christian McCaffrey to me. But he is a really good player. This season in itself, in a vacuum, because also a default, because quarterback play is underwhelming, some injuries. To me, he's like a top 5, top 7 quarterback, easily. So now that you have all these pieces in, you finally have your quarterback, you got to win it.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen,
Lamar Jackson.
Can we put Joe Burrow, even though Joe Burrow?
Matt Stafford.
You think now? Yeah.
Yes, this season.
Did you hear Kyle Shanahan yesterday say that he thought that Matthew Stafford, was like the best quarterback he's ever evaluated?
Well, it sucks because he missed out on the trade, and now the Rams have a Super Bowl. But Matthew Stafford this year has been amazing. If that's
the best quarterback you've ever evaluated, show a little more urgency, man.
Matthew Stafford this year has been so damn sweet. Even in the games where his numbers haven't been the greatest, if people actually watched him play, you'd see damn, how the hell is he still being this sweet? And it's that's the thing. It's like, oh, he's only been good the last month and a half. It's like, no, he hasn't. He's been good the other games. Just because he's not having constantly highlight plays where he's sidearming a throw, nickel pass doesn't mean come on, man. It's just watch him play. He's easily been a top 5 quarterback this year to me. And Mahomes is teetering top 5, but
I think Stafford should have been in the MVP conversation if we're thinking about where would that team be if it was?
You could argue that too. Same thing with that's because I like your logic in terms of who should be the MVP versus like how you said a couple weeks ago about it should be the one who's really doing the most with less in terms of who struggled. Whereas oh yeah, everything's always about the impressive numbers and who's on the winningest team. And it's shoot, the MVP should be the guy who gets his team to the playoffs and actually look good, which I like what you said about, what was it, Josh Allen? You had someone else too. But like, yeah, like Stafford would have been a good pick because without him, they're not doing nothing. I mean, shoot. I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah, but Purdy to me is top 5, top 7 this year for sure. So yeah, all the pressures on Kyle